Hi, how you doing? I'm Dr. Howard Goodman. You might have seen me on television or read my book, How to Lose Weight and Influence People, or you might have read about me in the newspaper or things like that. I want to thank you for watching this video, and the reason I put together the video is to give you a little bit of an idea about how my program works so that you can kind of make a decision for yourself before you would come into the office. Basically, here in a nutshell, I lost over 150 pounds and kept it off naturally, and my journey started in 2007 with the natural weight loss. Prior to that, in the year 1997, I was a healthy guy. I was about 30 years old. I was working out a lot and going to the gym. And then basically I herniated a disc in my lower back. And from that, I actually gained, from the prednisone, the corticosteroids, and the epidurals, lack of exercise, and still eating like an athletic kind of guy, I went from 197 pounds all the way up to 356 pounds by the year 2003. And in 2003, I decided that I was miserable. I had tried every kind of gimmicky diet. I went to all the places that you could go, all the mainstream weight centers that sell prepackaged foods. I went to meetings, I counted points, I did all the things that anyone would attempt when they were really not happy with their weight. I had diabetes at that time, I had high blood pressure, cholesterol issues, back pain, sleep apnea, everything that goes along with being obese. Finally, at that time, the most popular thing that people were doing, and I finally gave in at that point, I had a gastric bypass. Well, that was one of the biggest mistakes in my life because the gastric bypass was nothing but a temporary Band-Aid. It caused me to have lifelong problems such as anemia. It actually caused me to have hernias and all kinds of problems with my gallbladder, all kinds of issues that occurred from the gastric bypass. And the problem was I regained the weight from 2003 to 2007. I regained all the weight back and more. So in 2007, that's really where this journey begins, where I personally was back at 358 pounds. I had a brand new baby girl. She was a year old, not even. And I was miserable because I wanted to give her a quality of life that I couldn't help her with. I was going to the doctors. They were giving me prescriptions for the high blood pressure, prescriptions for the medications, for diabetes, prescriptions for the cholesterol, and I just knew that there had to be a better way, and I didn't want to have surgery again. So at this time, I was practicing on Park Avenue, running a physical therapy, chiropractic, acupuncture office, helping people, but I was also miserable on the inside, and people would notice and they'd say, hey, you know, you gained a lot of weight, what's going on? So finally, I went on a mission for myself to actually learn how to lose weight and keep it off for good. I just decided that was it. I had my aha moment, and I said, I got to do this. So I went on a search, and I went around the country. I went to different doctors, and all of them were naturopathic type physicians. Some of them were MDs that studied herbology and naturopathic medicine. And the one thing that resonated with all the messages they all got to me was, you got to get healthy before you lose weight. It's not going to work the other way around. You saw that losing the weight didn't really fix anything. You have to fix the underlying cause and get yourself healthy. So I'm going to explain to you how that works now in a very short video so that you kind of understand how my program is different than probably any other program you've ever heard of. Also, my program is used by other doctors nationwide. We have a think tank of doctors that work together to really help people understand this, and we are always evolving and always working with the most cutting-edge technologies to really help you lose weight. So I'm going to talk about how does weight loss work. And here's the biggest thing that's different than in my program than any other program you're going to hear about. You have to address what I've identified as 10 different things to really lose weight. The first of them is you have to balance your blood sugar level. Your insulin levels are what basically is what's going to make you either gain weight or lose weight. So insulin is a hormone that is released in the body. Whenever you have too much glucose, the body comes along, releases insulin, the insulin comes along, and it stores it as fat. If you're a healthy, normal person like a Michael Phelps or an athlete, if you have a bowl of pasta before a race, the insulin has a key to unlock the cell, and it will actually use that energy from the glucose and put it into the cell, and you'll burn it off as energy. But if you're insulin resistant like I was, and basically your insulin doesn't work, the key no longer works, so whenever you eat a carbohydrate or certain sugars, the body's going to take that energy in the form of glucose and it's going to try to put it in different places. It's going to try to stick it in the muscle will reject it. The second place it's going to try to put it is going to be your liver, and the liver will reject it. And the third place it's going to try to put it is in your fat cells. And the fat cells will get bigger and bigger and bigger until the fat cells will no longer accept it, and then you end up becoming a type 2 diabetic or insulin resistant, as we now know about. Another thing we talk about in our office, that part of the 10 things that we speak about, is we want to talk about leptin. And what is leptin? Well, leptin is actually a hormone that we found out about in 1998. So let me talk about leptin here, because leptin is a very interesting hormone. And if we don't address leptin, we're never going to understand why we're craving and why we're hungry. And a lot of people that are heavy are actually considered fat and lazy by a lot of people. And folks, if you're heavy, you're not fat and lazy, your body is chemically not balancing correctly. So we're going to talk about how some of this stuff works right now. So basically leptin, which was discovered in 1998, before 1998 we thought that fat cells were just a place to stick things like toxins and things like that. We never really realized that fat cells were as much of an organ as the heart, the lung, the liver, and all the other organs in the body. And what makes it an organ is this fascinating hormone called leptin. And what leptin does is whenever you eat something, the brain is communicating with leptin. And leptin, whenever you eat, like let's say glucose or a carbohydrate or even a protein, okay, whenever your brain eats glucose, that's your brain right here, whenever it eats something, the leptin is supposed to send a signal to the brain saying, hey, listen, I'm actually good, you just fed me, I'm full, I'm working on the food that you gave me, stop sending food. And when this normal leptin reaction is working, what happens is when the brain knows that you've just eaten because leptin told it so, now the body doesn't know how big or small you are based on looking in the mirror. It relies on leptin to tell it whether you're heavier or not, and whether your fat is using itself or not, or whether it's using chemicals or not in the food, if the food's working or not. So if the leptin communication is working, the brain thinks that, okay, we just fed you, we don't need to have more food. So what we want to do is we want to increase metabolism, and we want to decrease appetite, right? Makes sense, because why would you want to eat more food if your fat cells are working on the food that you just ate? So basically, you wouldn't want to do that. But what happens is, with a lot of insulin and a lot of high fructose corn syrup and a lot of chemicals that we have, the brain actually loses the communication from leptin. It actually does not get the signal. We actually call this leptin blindness. The brain does not acknowledge that leptin is even existing or telling it to stop eating. So what happens is when you have a lot of insulin and you eat a lot of food, you eat a lot of carbohydrates, and then the insulin is released, it's going to take all that food out, it's going to start storing it in the fat cells, and you're going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So what we need to do is make the body leptin sensitive again. We want to make the insulin sensitive again. And then the third thing we want to talk about is cortisol. So cortisol is a belly fat storage hormone. And we all think of cortisol as belly fat. A lot of people are aware of that. Again, with the drawing here. And cortisol works like this. Basically, cortisol is made in the adrenal gland. So the adrenal gland makes adrenaline for fight or flight. It makes cortisol, and it makes cortisone. That's why when so many people, like myself, when you get epidurals and stuff like that, a lot of people will take prednisone, a lot of people gain a lot of weight because it's related to the creation of cortisol and it affects the adrenal gland. So when you have too much cortisol pumping out, cortisol is a belly fat storage hormone, and it's a muscle waster. So it actually makes your muscles weaker while it makes your belly fat bigger. So our program addresses cortisol, and it corrects the problem of the cortisol issue as well. The fourth thing that we deal with, very importantly, is something called digestive health or gut health. This is our gut, and our gut basically includes your digestive system. It includes your liver. It includes your small intestine and your large intestine. So we call the gut the second brain. And we call this the second brain because basically every food item that passes through it, a protein, an enzyme, a carbohydrate, the gut is what will decide where those hormones go. Now, we either know somebody who's depressed or is on antidepressants, or you're on antidepressants, you can't sleep right. Well, guess what? 85% of all those chemicals that we make in the brain, like serotonin and dopamine, that's all made in the gut. So if the gut is not working properly, all the chemicals in the brain are not going to work properly either. So it's going to cause you to have mental fog, clarity. You're going to get tired all the time. You're going to get adrenal exhaustion, again related to this. You're going to get tired. So our office works on correcting these things naturally by helping you balance those equations with this digestion. And a big thing that we talk about here is Candida. Now, Candida is very important because Candida is a yeast that lives in your gut. And we have in our gut, we have two basic components. We have Candida on one side, Candida, and we have our good bacteria. So we have our good bacteria on the other side. We actually call that gut flora. Now, in a normal person's body, Candida is supposed to be there because Candida will help digest with good gut flora. It's going to be like the yin and the yang. If Candida gets too high, the gut flora comes along and brings down the Candida. If the good gut flora gets too high, the Candida comes along and lowers the gut flora. So a lot of times, it's a perfect union. The body assimilates the food that you eat using Candida and the good gut flora. But guess what happens? When we take too many medications today, antibiotics, foods that have antibiotics, you take Tylenol, aspirin, Aleve, you take over-the-counter medications, birth control pills, stress, chemicals that we get in our environment, the good bacteria starts to disappear. And guess what? Candida runs wild. When you have too much Candida, it grows all throughout the body, and actually, it's actually a diagnosis. There's a diagnosis for Candida problems around the world, even in the United States. Candida is a problem because what Candida lives on is sugar. It makes you crave sugar. And the side effect of Candida is bloating, it's gas, it's joint pain, it causes fibromyalgia. So we want to really make sure that we restore your good gut flora, your good bacteria. And that's one of the big things that we do in our program that nobody else really does, all by using real food and vitamins and minerals to really restore that. Okay? The other things that we deal with in the office is emotional eating. Okay? A very big part of the program is dealing with emotional eating. We also deal with stress. We want to understand that stress is a huge component that is often left out of these, just count calorie type diets. So we deal with emotional eating, we deal with stress, and the most important thing is we want to clean out the liver, and we do a lot of detoxification in our office. Let me explain to you how we really put this all together with our external and internal cleansing. So I've mentioned now all the digestive things that we address to help you lose weight. But one of the biggest things we talk about now is our detoxification program. We do it internally, but we also do it externally, and this is what makes the program very effective. We have several different technologies, one of which is called detox body wraps. This wrap process was formulated to encourage circulatory and lymphatic flow in patients. Research showed that because of this increased flow of both the lymphatic and circulatory systems, the patients experience cleansing of the tissues. It's very typical to lose 4 to 14 inches in only 1 hour. Our body wraps use herbal formulations which work externally to internally. This type of wrap aids in the removal of waste that has become trapped in the vulnerable parts of your body. It's basically a painless cleansing process of the tissue underneath the skin and helps restore elasticity to loose, flabby skin. It does not dehydrate and age the skin like other wraps. This is the healthiest type of wrap there is because there is no sweating or dehydration. With all body wrap, you will experience inch loss, diminishing of cellulite, and body contouring. These results can be permanent and are completely safe. One of the most exciting things that we added to our protocol, in addition to the deep lymphatic cleansing wrap, is our laser-like lipo. And this is a game changer for us in helping people cleanse out the external part of the body, which is your fat cells. We want to shrink those fat cells by using this exciting technology. Laser-like lipo body sculpting is a technique that stimulates the transitory pores of the fat cells to open. The water, glycerol, and free fatty acids are eliminated by the body in a natural way. This minimally invasive treatment facilitates body modeling and provides you noticeable results in minimal time. The laser-like lipo process is almost exactly the same as exercise, only instead of hormones opening the fat cells, the laser-like lipo opens the fat cells right through your skin. Think of like a grape. It's big, it's puffy, it's filled with triglycerols and fatty acids, and by the time we're done in that 7-minute session, we're actually getting rid of all the toxins on the inside and pretty much shrinking the size of that fat cell. So beginning, it starts out like a grape, and when we're done, it's like a raisin. The reason we utilize this incredible technology in my office is simply because it works. It reduces the size of your body. It helps you feel incredible. You lose inches, and it's FDA cleared technology performed by a licensed esthetician. I look forward to seeing you in the office in person. Thank you for watching this video.